This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com. Thanks for downloading Grilled by the Staff Canteen. I'm Cara, editor of the Staff Canteen, and in this episode our deputy editor Tanny spoke to Stosie Madi, the award-winning chef and owner of the Parker's Arms in Clitheroe. In this interview, she talked about how the business is hunkered down and using social media to keep loyal customers in the loop. She discussed her apprehensions about keeping customers safe and restaurants open in the coming months, and the importance of championing independent businesses to ensure a bright future for British pubs and restaurants. This conversation took place before the 2 metre social distancing rule was dropped, but thankfully our hypotheses came true, allowing many venues to reopen.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Grilled podcast on the Staff Canteen. Today we are talking to Stosie Madi, the chef and owner of gastropub
The Parker's Arms,
in Lancashire. She just told me in Hodder Valley, which is near the Forest of Bowland. The Parker's Arms has been open since 2007. And it's been listed among all of the major guides. So it's been in the AA guide since 2013. It's been a top scorer in Hardin's since 2011. In the top 50 gastropubs since 2013. And is hoping to reopen after the coronavirus lockdown on July the 4th. So we're here to talk about that. Hi, Stosie. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So how are you and how have you been?
I'm okay. I mean, it's been very muted because coming from, the background I come from, which is working all the time and being on the go all the time, it became very muted once we had to close the doors. But we've been doing a lot in the background, getting ready to reopen, refurbishing all the sort of public areas. We've added in a larger garden in the back. We've done lots. We've been overhauling the business and working our risk assessment out, seeing how we can make the Parker's Arms very safe for team and guests.
Yeah, it's. I think for a lot of businesses, it's been a good time to just take a break and reevaluate things and refresh.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But we were a solvent business. We're very good. We had good customers. It was looking like it was going to be possibly our best year yet. I mean, it's been progressively climbing every year because obviously when we opened, we had to deal with a financial crash and then, more issues in between. And it was very difficult dealing with the pubco company when we first started. So we finally. Really, I would say the last 3 years have been wonderful for the Parker's Arms. It's just been getting better and better. And this year was going to be the year because the bookings were just super wonderful. The weather was looking good. We were fully booked for Mother's Day. We were fully booked for Easter that far ahead. It was just so great. And then boom, the pandemic hit. So we started hemorrhaging bookings for Mother's Day. Literally the day that Boris actually told people not to go out anymore. And come the Wednesday before Mother's Day, we just thought, you know what, this is just like flogging a dead horse. It's too costly to stay open. We're just going to shut it down. We did start immediately with a takeaway service, a pick-up and delivery. We're in the middle of nowhere, so the closest town to us is about a 15-minute drive. Well, it's 10 to 12 minutes on a non-busy day to us. Right. And we found that people were driving all the way from Manchester, Liverpool, everywhere to come and get their takeouts from us. And we thought, well, this is very irresponsible with the message that the, world, Public Health England is trying to portray. So we're going to put a stop to that and hit it on the head for a while. We were going to carry on. And then the furlough system came on. And then we tried to weigh and evaluate everything. There's not enough people on our doorstep to open a takeaway or a pick-up and delivery. We would have to launch something online. It would have been too costly to do that whole thing without knowing what kind of security that would do, and it would have made possibly paying staff and put in a precarious position, and we did not want to risk that. So when the furlough scheme came, everybody got put on furlough, and we just decided to model on and try and look at the business model, how we can change it, how we can improve it, work it out fix it up, and that's what we've been doing.
That must have been really conflicting, knowing that you had all of these customers that wanted to eat your food, and obviously you love what you do, and you having to put a stop to that for just to be a responsible business must have been really tough.
It was a very tough decision to make, because up until the Wednesday, although we'd been hemorrhaging bookings, we still had enough bookings that we could have warranted to keep, and we really kept trying. But when we rang people and actually cancelled them, they said, well, look, why don't you just keep us in the bookings book just in case you do open anyway? And we thought, well, it was tempting, should we risk it? But yeah, it was a hard decision to make, because it was something we were very much looking forward to, and our customers were very lucky, because we have a very loyal customer base. We get a lot of new customers as well, but we have a very loyal customer base, and they bring in a lot of people with them all the time from lots of different parts of the country, because we are a destination, food pub. So, people do know they have to drive out. We do know footfall, walking to us is just a no-no. So we do rely a lot on people traveling to come to us. So, and people had planned this, and they'd made an effort to get families and whatever together. So it was a bit of a downer. Well, it was a big downer, but these things happen. You have to look forward and you have to move on. What was important is we had to stay safe. We had to make sure people would be safe and not come to us. And that's the decision we took. And yeah, I still stand by that. I'd do it again if I had to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's commendable and the responsible thing to do, I suppose. And how important has social media been for you throughout this to sort of keep that contact with your customers and to reassure them that you're still there for them and that you'll be coming back and that you care about coming back?
Yeah. Well, we rely on social media in every aspect of our business, if I'm honest with you. I mean, without social media, we would not be where we are because of our position.
Yeah.
I mean, I have never worked for anyone in the UK or elsewhere. I am self-taught. I've opened my own businesses. I own my businesses, with my business partner, Kathy, who's also the co-founder. So I don't have that network and to get me known by either the guides or the media or, because that sort of network is there when you work in the UK or in London specifically, and you get into that groove and that group of chefs, and you move on and you pass the word on. So it was a big struggle setting up and getting found and getting people to know where we are, what we're about, and what we do. So social media was very, very strong on our agenda from pretty much 2007. Yeah. Over the pandemic, we have kept people up to date with the fact that we're still here and what we're doing, but we've not got involved in doing a lot of home cooking and all that sort of stuff. One of the main predominant reason is during the pandemic, this is on a personal level, my mother, who I also look after, got very ill, nothing to do with coronavirus. It's an ongoing thing, and I have to maintain and manage her. So I had to make a choice, and of course, because we're not working at Parker's, it gave me freer time to be able to concentrate more on that personal matter. But at all times, I kept trying to keep people informed what we were doing, how it was coming along, what the place was looking like, and showing as much as I could. And people seem to appreciate that. Social media is amazing. It definitely is the way forward for all businesses for this in the future, because it's a perfect way to connect with your customers and tell them what you're about, what you're doing, how you're going to do it. Yeah, it's very important for us.
Well, it certainly seems to have paid off in that you've now got bookings pouring in for your relaunch.
Well, I'm very lucky, because when we put out the fact that we were going to be taking the bookings, within 4 hours, the bookings just kept streaming in, and it was all return customers, all loyal guests. I mean, we recognized almost every single name that came through. It was wonderful. It was sort of a real big massive boost to the morale for all of us to see all of these customers that have always been there for us, these guests coming back and booking, regardless of whether we might be open or not. So for us, that was that instilled confidence. And what was really nice is that people on social media also shared it, to say, look, they're taking bookings, and that's great, because when you have people who are in the industry, chefs, business owners, whatever, people who have a lot of clout on Twitter and Instagram that share these things, it helps spread the word even more. So that's really important. Yeah, we're very pleased with that.
Yeah.
We just hope we can feed them. We hope we can feed them, basically.
So that moves me on to my next subject. And by the time this podcast goes out, we'll all be settled and know what's what.
We will know, yeah.
Johnson is about to give a speech to potentially announce the reopening of restaurants and bars and pubs on the 4th of July, and to set out the guidelines for that to happen. What are you hoping to hear today?
I'm hoping that Boris says that we can open up from the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seriously hoping that he goes with the registration of guests, because this was something we had come up with anyway as part of our risk assessment. We will not be taking any walk-ins for the first 3 weeks anyway. We're really seriously not taking walk-ins. Even if you're drinking, you have to book a table, which means we are able to have a system in place where we know everybody who's in the pub at any one time, who's visited the pub, and we can trace them, and we know that's banked. So for that specific reason, until we are fully in control of everything that we do, we're going to make sure that no walk-ins, so that we know how many people are in our pub at any given time, how many are drinking, how many are eating, who they are, how to get hold of them, and basically our own track and trace system in place to help if that needs to be, called on. So that's one thing I really would appreciate if Boris did say that, because it's very hard to police things, and it looks quite churlish when you demand certain things of guests, because we are also in the hospitality industry. We're not police. So we have to be, it is an experience. It's not just about great food and great drink. It is an experience, and we do want people to enjoy their experience, because once people have to do this, do that, fill this form, do that, wear the masks, do this, it just becomes not a hospitality experience. And if we really, really want to give confidence to our guests and show them that we're on the ball, we're in control, but we're not taking away a lot from that, we need to be to instill in them that we are in control, but we're making it seamless.
Yeah.
With Boris Johnson, if Boris Johnson does say that registration is necessary, or is, even if it's not mandatory, is advisable, that will help us, because it will convey the message to the guests that we are keeping with guidelines, and then people will see that we're not just being pernickety. The 2-meter rule is hopefully, I'm confident that is not going to be, because nowhere else in Europe has brought that in. That I don't understand it, but if that rule comes into place, we will go with it, because of one reason: we are very lucky. We have space, and a lot of it, a lot of space. It would take us down to 50% occupancy during one sitting, if you will.
Yeah.
But that's just indoors. Outdoors, it won't affect us. We've got plenty of room, and that's where we really plan on maximizing people sitting outdoors. And indoors is what we call our fail-safe. So we really would like him to not put the 2-meter thing in place, and most definitely to say that we're open for the 4th and 5th. Guidelines of some kind that we can work on will be very helpful, because although we in hospitality are so cut out to keep people safe, we do it on a daily basis. It's our jobs. We feed people. We welcome people into our houses, if you will, every single day. We keep them safe. We feed them. We look after them, and then we send them off home. Nobody is more prepared to keep people safe than we are. And we'll all be on the ball with this. We'll all know exactly how to do it. But guidelines are important because it puts the dot on the I. It says to people, this is what you should be doing. So if this company is doing this operator is trying to do this, you should try and comply, because that's what we need. We know what we can do. We know how good we are. What we need is the general public to help us and comply. Because if they do, if our guests play along with how we want to keep them and our team safe, then we're home free. When you put alcohol in the mix, that's when things go a little bit awry. And I know that a lot of people seem to not be taking that into account, but that has been the major issue here. Because when we have a drink, we chill out and we forget. And, who's going to remember to stand 1 meter away from your friend when you're talking to them, when you've had a couple of glasses of wine, you're in full sociable mode. So this is where we have to make sure we have systems in place that avoid this sort of thing happening, and that can only be respected by the general public if there's a set of guidelines set out by the government to say this is what is expected of them. And then it looks like we're playing along, so they have to play along, and then we all play together safe. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I see it.
It does. And what will that look like, for example, if they say that the 2 rule has been dropped, but people still need to respect a 1 meter rule and other conditions, how will you enforce that without, like you said, affecting that spirit of hospitality that you're trying to provide?
Well, it's so easy to explain, but so difficult to also. Basically, we have a huge car park on our premises. So when people book the table, whether it's drinking or eating, they're going to get a separate code. They're not going to be able to access our pub or the car park unless they have that code. So we know we're controlling entry by anybody in that way. So that's the first point of control we want to have. And then because we're staggering the way people come in, because we're not strictly a boozing pub, we are food focused. So most people who come to us are coming to eat as well as drink. Drinking is a huge part, but eating is the major thing that they come and do. So that means they are seated anyway. So I think the fact that people are going to be sitting is already a help, because they're not milling about. So we're not going to have anybody allowed near the bar or standing around the bar, because we don't think that should happen, because that is a recipe for disaster. Because once you start drinking at the bar, you forget everything you're doing, and that's it. So if you're sitting down, at least we can keep some form of control in that you're sitting with your party and you stay put. We have... and
is it going to be table service, or is it going to be like the government has suggested, like an app or QR codes or something?
At Parker's Arms, it's all about that table service, that camaraderie, that connection. But we are going to, and we have told customers, we are going to start with a very small menu to begin with, a very small seasonal menu. It's going to be online, and there's going to be QR codes for people to scan and see it and order it online if they wish to. But the other thing which we haven't confirmed yet, which we're really toying with, we think that for the next month, we're going to get people to pre-order the food. So that would mean we will confirm staffing levels, how many people are in the kitchen, what food is coming in to cut out any waste, any excess prep time, all of that sort of stuff. So we're hoping, people go to restaurants and they eat a tasting menu. So the tasting menu, when the person books for a tasting menu, they already know what they're booking.
They're not going to.
So unfortunately, for pubs like us, this is not what we like to do, because we like people, because when I go somewhere to eat, I don't know what I want to eat until I get there. So this is a difficult situation. We are definitely going to give our guests, though, the option to pre-book and pre-pay for their meal on the phone with us when we call to confirm the booking, and to actually tell them what our COVID statement is and what we would expect of them and what we're going to be doing for them. And because we cannot carry that out at the table at the moment with the way things are, we're going to take that extra time on the phones to speak to our guests individually, to confirm their bookings, to tell them what we're going to do. We're going to email them the pack of what it is that we've put into place, how we would be expecting them to fit into the service that we have got prepared for them, take their food order in advance and have it ready for them. And the only thing they will have to therefore order whilst they're there is their drinks. And we're working on a way of getting the drinks orders done again via our website with our card providers. We have looked into the app situation. There are some free things out there, but we're really very wary about third parties. So we're finding a way of trying to integrate it all into our website, and so it works in a form of website text messaging service that people can deal with. So that will deal with the drink situation. So they order the drink, and the drink will either get served to them, the waiter will put it at the pickup point, or they can get it just brought to the table if they choose for us to do that. Okay. But we are going to be dressing our team in visors, because we can then look at our customers and smile at them. We're not going to use masks in the public area, but we will wear visors because we have to protect our team as well. And we've talked to our customers and they seem to be quite happy with that. Certainly until all this balances out, we're going to be doing that. So customers will know that if the team members come to bring their food and their drink for them directly to their table, there is some form of protective barrier between them. Yeah. Tables are going to be spaced out according to what they're supposed to be spaced out. Table settings will have to be brought at the time of the food being brought to the table. So all of these things that we've seen already being mentioned in the media are all part of what our risk assessment is. We have an in and out system into the pub, because we have obviously 2 doors that people can use at the front. Because it's summer, thankfully, we're going to avoid having the fires on, although we always have fires on in the summertime, all the time, roaring fires in the pub. We're going to avoid doing that to begin with, to stop it overheating. We're going to try and keep as many windows and doors open. We're in the middle of the countryside. We've got that beautiful fresh air. And we're just going to hope that people will take their tables, sit at the tables, they've ordered the food. There's minimum interaction, but we're there for them if they want the interaction. And for those that cannot use the QR codes, they're not tech savvy, we've got single-use menus, and we're very happy to deal with them on a personal basis. We think the 2 choices should be there. Some people want to keep it very, very separate and keep a safe distance. Other people are not so worried. And as long as our staff members are kept safe and they're happy to do it, then we're fine with implementing that. So we think we've got it covered for sure. I mean, we've got sanitizing stations everywhere. You've got to sanitize your hands before you come into the pub. Although we've got two WC facilities, we're only going to allow single use at any one time. So 1 in, 1 out, into the toilets, to make sure people are kept separate. And we're going to have a meeting with our locals that are our drinking crowd. We've set up a designated area for them to be able to drink in, indoors and outdoors, and those tables are set up for our drinking crowd that come in all the time, that are our bread and butter. They're our locals, and they're booked for them at all times, and we know what they drink. They can text us, we can take it to the table, or they can shout for it. We're going to have it in control. We have to make sure people stay seated and separate from each other, and I think we're lucky, because we're a dining pub, we can do that. Yeah. We have to implement all sorts of things. Like we're very child friendly, but we're going to have to say to people, children can't run around. You've got to keep them at the table with you. Your dog can't run around. They've got to be on a lead, and they've got to be with you. All of these things are just little things, but just to try and keep people in their little bubbles, on their little tables, in their booked areas. Yeah, that's basically it. And finally, I forgot to mention, actually, we normally, when you book a table at the Parker's Arms, you're allowed to have the table for as long as you want, because like I said, we're spoiled for space and we've got lots of room and lots of tables. And, we don't try to cram as many people in as possible, because there is a level of service and food quality that we do. We're not a fast food outlet. So bookings are staggered and you normally get to sit as long as you want. But we are going to have to change that. We have to set a 2-hour limit on each table, because we need 10 minutes for every new guests that arrive to go to be, through the system of being welcomed, temperature taken, confirm that they've got the booking code, that they're allowed to be there, and that we've got all their details, their names, everything. Get them to sanitize their hands and show them to the freshly sanitized table, and then we can move on to the next table. So we have to make that seamless. So we have to have a set time on the tables. I don't know how my customers are going to react to that, because we're normally very chilled about how long people can stay at these tables. I think that might be a problem, but we'll have to work through that.
Yeah. So I think you've definitely got what a lot of the media is talking about in terms of, ticking the boxes for consumer confidence, making sure that that guests know that you're doing all of the right things to keep them safe.
Yes.
But there's also mention of, that sort of fun element being taken away. And personally, I'm willing to accept that compromise, because I haven't been out to eat for 4 months and I really miss it. And I just want to go out, and I know it's going to be a gradual process before we can go back to normal. But
yes.
How important do you think it is, and how much are you doing to keep that sort of fun element, to make sure that people are still getting that excitement from coming out?
Very important. I think we're very lucky. The guests that use us, they know we're a very super casual, very relaxed place, and we are not going to win. Almost, it's so hard to explain. When people come in, it's a bit like their friends coming in, so we kind of know them, and we know how to react and how to interact with them, and we're going to make sure that element stays in place by not keeping it so separate and so divided. So we are going to still interact with the guests, and we are not going to form partitions between the guest stables and screens and stuff like that, because that's way too sterile, in my opinion. We need to hear that buzz, that noise, that loudness. At Parker's Arms, we don't play music, because usually the music is people chattering, the hustle and bustle, the noise of the cutlery, clinking on the plates, people eating and having a really good time. Once we have a certain number of people in the pub area that are doing all of this, people will, I think, naturally relax and fit into the, oh, well, look, I'm out now, I'm going to be cosseted, I'm going to be spoiled, someone's going to cook for me, they're going to serve me, it's going to be a nice, so they'll enjoy that. And we have to keep that fun part going on. We cannot make it sterile and too formal and just way in your face. It's all got to happen in a very chilled, seamless way, and with a lot of banter to it. I mean, we're in the north of England. It's a lot of banter and dry humor anyway, and we always easily swing people into that form. And AJ, who's in charge front of house, renowned for his banter, and he's like, my God, you can hear him about 3 miles away, so there'll be no problem with him being able to communicate and keep people at ease. And we are going to keep that level of fun. And like you said, I think if people truly love going out, I mean, we're spoiled because we're hospitality, so we thrive on going out, and we will do anything to preserve our industry, our trade. I mean, I would cut my right arm and right leg off to sit in a busy bar right now, somewhere like Hawksmoor, man at the bar and have a really good drink mixed for me before I go and sit and have something to eat and listen to that buzz. We would all do that. But the general public is scared. They have been terrified for the last 3 months by all these messages, and it's all very well. A lot of people out there saying they're not scared, they're going to go out, they're going to eat. We've done our survey, we've talked to our customers. We have a lot of people also from the older generation who simply say until there's a vaccine they won't come out. Well, there may never be a vaccine, but life has to go on. We've got to show these people that actually not everybody does die from coronavirus, thank God. And if you're really looked after and you look after yourself, you can keep yourself safe and others can keep you safe. So go out and live, because God, you don't want to live in your room and in your house for the next, God knows how long, waiting for a vaccine. There's no point to living. But guests will not see it like that. So we've got to educate them into feeling safe and positive. So that's going to be the challenge. We really have to get the message across to them that they are safe, they will be safe, we will keep them safe if they comply, and we have got to make it so good when they come that they'll want to come again. Because, you know, if you go somewhere and everything is so regimented and so military like and sterile, you're not going to want to go back, because it's going to be more fun sitting at home than having to do all that.
And that's
So
it might be that the floodgates open and everybody rushes back out because they're excited about going back out, and then they realize that actually, you know, because of all of the rules in place, it's not as fun as it used to be, and it's not as exciting, and they might as well stay at home, save a buck, and eat at home.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we need to make sure it doesn't happen. And that's why we want to make sure we take the right amount of bookings that we deal with, so that those that come into the pubs on the days that we open, you have to take a hit on profits the first few weeks. You really have to. I think the industry has to take a hit on it. They have to really keep the numbers to a very sensible level to ensure they give a seamless, fun, safe service to those that are in, because then they can go away thinking they've gone away with a good amount, if at least 75 to 80% of what hospitality used to be like before. That'll make them yearn to come back. If you have too many people coming in, you've got that issue happening, then you really have to start being too strict. You know, basically the shit's going to hit the fan, and there's no other words for it, and we're all going to end up just losing out. The best thing to do is to control your numbers, I think, quite stringently to begin with, and see how you can phase it in until it becomes a seamless service and we slip back into what we used to be. If the numbers are smaller, if they're well spaced out, if your risk assessment is put in place, if everybody is well trained, we should be able to keep that fun factor in. If we're greedy, we want to pile in the people, it's not going to work out. You have to take a hit on it.
Yeah. That leads on quite well to what I wanted to speak to you about next, which is, to talk about your financial situation. How have you dealt with lockdown? Have you had any sort of government aid, grants, business insurance payouts? What has sort of seen you through?
No insurance payouts at all. We got a business grant we got a 25k because we qualified.
Yeah.
And what we used that money for was to pay all suppliers, pay our staff in full for March, in full. It was non-negotiable because we already had money to pay our staff, but we made sure that we paid them in full, and we kept the March money that we kept for them in the bank for the following month, in case, obviously, there was no furlough come through fast enough and people needed to live. We've kept it to pay all our utilities. We've not been able to pay rent, because if we had paid rent, we would not be able to pay utilities, staff and suppliers. And our rent is supposed to be based on fair and maintainable trade. And as far as I was concerned, once there's no trade, rent has to be worked on. I do not think we should be rent free, because it's not fair, because they also have, debts to service. They have bills to pay. We have to pay some form of rent. But I am negotiating all the time with the pub company to do something about it. They did not enforce rent payments, so that helped. They deferred it. That doesn't help, because it's a mountain of debt in the background, and that is the problem that we are going to have to deal with when we reopen. That is the big monster that we're going to have to deal with. Rent is basically it's going to work out like this. If the landlords and the pub companies don't work out a suitable solution for the backed up rent debt, we are all going to go under. Well, most of us.
Need that solution to be? Would it be, paying 2 months worth of rent at a time? Would it be deferring
We
it? You only pay a percentage over the next few years?
I think
Like,
the National Timeout campaign is a fantastic campaign.
Yeah.
I do think what they should do with the rents is certainly leave it until the rent that we have accrued now. Our pub company has sort of said, we're going to give you, you have to pay full rent, and what we're going to do, those of you that have had help from the government, you should be paying rent anyway, because that's why he gave you well, that's fine, but who thought it would be 3 months? If we pay 3 months worth of rent, our suppliers what we owed them, we can't pay any of our utilities. People very short, small margins in the first place to give full rent for when you're not earning. So they've now said that they're going to defer some of that rent towards going to the trade bill, which is okay. But then again, 50% of that is what they're asking us to pay towards trade bill. Well, that's all good and well if we can get 50% trade shifted a week. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a month. It doesn't work. For me, I think either add it on to the end of the lease or leave it until the next year when we come into our full season again. Because, we're a seasonal business. Our main season starts in March and finishes at the end of August.
Yeah.
During that time is the bulk of our turnover. We work on 1.5 rent during that time, because the winter seasons for us are very dead. We're a seasonal business and it's very low. We do struggle in the winter. We're in quite a remote area. If it snows, we are completely, covered, and people get worried about coming. They can't access us. If there's flooding, people can't access the pub. So all of these things happen in the winter. So we pay the bulk of our rent throughout the summer and spring. Now we've lost all of the spring, and the whole problem is we build our reserves during the spring and summer months to carry us through the winter. Mm-hmm. This year, because we had that closure in March, we didn't have any chance to build up any reserves. So we will not make it through the winter if we have to pay full rent of any kind. So what would really work for us if the debted rent is deferred till possibly next year and is taken off as an add-on if they don't want to do the national timeout. So there's a percentage that keeps getting taken from next year onwards until the end of our leases as an added on the actual debt, if you see what I mean. So if your rent was £10, they take out £1 of the debt every month or every quarter or whatever that they want to take out and add it on to the new rent. Yeah. But the easiest thing is let us heal for the next few months. Let us gather some pace. Help us with a stepped rent, because we're definitely going to need to keep 50% rent. Because at the best of times, we're on 50% rent during the winter anyway, and we start going on 1.5 in the spring. So if they can help us with lower rents throughout the coming months and then step up to a full rent from next spring, and then start then working and chipping off the debt that's accumulated, that would be ideal for us. Yeah. The other solution is the National Timeout campaign, which is perfect, which really would be good. So a stepped rent for now, and then the added rent at the end of the lease, the added debt on the end of the lease. That would be perfect. And that would really help us survive, because if they demand full rent, we will not survive. We will close without a shadow of doubt.
Assuming that you get that, do you think that between that and the enthusiasm that you've had from the past few days from your customers will mean that you are in a good position moving forward if the situation were resolved?
Yeah, I am an optimist. If the rent situation is resolved, if HMRC keeps on with this time to pay, yes, the CBILS are out there for people to get. I mean, I don't think extra debt is the way forward. So time we don't need it, so we're not going to get it. And I'm not going to take a loan out to pay my rent. I'll be very honest with you. It's, until I know what the trade is going to be out there and is it worth see, and I think the next 2-3 months will be very telling if we certainly open on the 4th. we will know if people will come out and carry on coming out, because we are very lucky. Like I said, these bookings are all our loyal returning guests.
Yeah.
And like I put on Twitter last night, come on people, keep booking, because we need these bookings to go beyond July now. We need bookings to come in for August. We need Christmas bookings to be coming in now. And these things are still not happening. I'm pushing, and we've just started campaigning, and it's early days yet. If that does happen, then we are in a good 7. We all, our close-knit family team, and we will, we're hands-on. We'll work very hard to make sure we keep costs down and we keep above water. If we can just break even and pay our bills until next thing, then it's worth. Once we start not being able to break even, it's doing. If we have the rent solution fixed and gives us time to pay, I think we can garner enough momentum to try and get people to keep coming, to repair the position that we're in, and to be in a fit state, hopefully by next spring, to fully start. That will help. The rent is going to be huge, and HMRC is another thing.
Yeah. And what would happen to you if there were a second wave? May that be a localized lockdown or a national lockdown? Would you be able to overcome that?
Not a doctor or one of these health experts, but all I can do is look around the whole of Europe and Asia. My daughter works out in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very, very, very controlled over there. They've had some second waves, but they've just got on with it.
Yeah.
So looking at what's happened in Asia and in the rest of Europe, looks like we are going to get a second wave, because everything that's happened everywhere else has pretty much happened here. Yes, I know it's a lot worse, and not going to get into any negativity, but yes, I'm sure we will get some second waves, because it seems like it's only going to be natural because it's happened everywhere else. If these little lockdowns are done, if we track and trace is kept tight somehow, if we stay on the ball with making sure that we keep doing what we're doing and don't get complacent too long, I think we can ride it. I really do. Because it's really hard to say it. If we have to close again, it'll be very, very difficult, wouldn't it? I mean, so the best solution is, again, like I said, to start small and with smaller numbers. I did omit to say we will not be opening Monday, Tuesdays and Wednesdays for the next sort of 8 weeks anyway.
Okay.
We've kept the bookings open for Thursdays, but we're going to look at the numbers, and if the numbers are not good, because we're very rural, the bulk of our trade is Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays for us, because most people don't come out into the country Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is always a hard day, but in the summertime it's always busy because it's premium time. So we're going to look at the Thursdays, and if that's not busy, we will probably close that down again. So to keep open for a minimum amount of days, for a minimum number of people, for us as a small business is going to work, because it will mean we can control the situation we're in. And I think we will be able to ride a second wave if we stay really on top of it, and not just try and open all the way and then end up accruing a lot of bills that we won't be able to pay. We're going to keep it as small as possible, as low key as possible, and work up to it. That will factor in seeing what's going to happen with that second wave and how we're going to ride it.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can see it for my business. I know this is not probably ideal for chain businesses or multi-operators or big businesses, but I can only look at it from my point of view, and as a single unit operator who has to look at how we can survive. I think opening a 7-day week, fully staffed with a full menu, is a disaster, because if there's a second wave, you do have to close, then it's really just going to be hugely bad, and the impact will be just as bad. If we keep it really slow, keep on top of it, keep pre-orders in, keep staffing low, keep costs very low by trying to maximize people coming in on a certain number of days. We should be able to weather it, and we should be in control. We're in the countryside, so we've not had anything COVID sort of related happen near us. So that's a positive that we can work on and say to people, look, come to the countryside. It's fresh, get away from it all. We have to be positive. We have to think, yes, there will be a second wave, but it won't be as bad. It cannot be as bad because it's not so terrible everywhere else. Nobody's just sort of shut everywhere down. They've just put certain measures in place, moderate opening hours, moderate things. I don't know. What do you think? Tell me. You've got me down. What do you think? How would you feel about going out if there was a second wave?
I would go out, but I don't know if that applies to everybody. I sort of assume in my conversations that everybody is as excited about going out as I am, but people, there really are disparities between people, whether they're in different, age groups,
They are.
different, where they live kind of affects where they want to go and whether they want to go out more like. But I think
the older community,
how adaptable and how reflexive some businesses are, and it's shown how others, just have broken under the pressure of that because they've not, whether it's luck and circumstance or just the ability to adapt, have gone under, and many more to come, I think. So if businesses can that level of flexibility, then I think a lot of them will be okay, but we'll just have to wait and see, won't we, really?
Yeah, we will. I mean, I really do think a second wave is inevitable because you've seen them all around Europe now. You look at the news, they're all over Europe, they're all over Asia. But my daughter says to me, but mum, people still come out, they wear their masks, they come in, they do as they're told because they want to go out, they have fun. But that's Asia. It's a different mentality. People don't mind wearing masks and doing all that sort of stuff. They've done that for years. It's not a new thing. You know what I mean? It's a whole different ballgame when you look at the European side of things. If people in Spain and Italy, which are very sunny and and very sociable places, have had to toe the line and change a lot of things and do a lot of things, then there is no reason why we can't do it as well. And they seem to have pockets of this happening, but the majority of places are not having it happen. So, I think we have to ride the wave, and we will. And I'm sure there will be a second wave. I can't see there not being as soon as we open something else happening. But I'm really, really confident and optimistic and want to be optimistic and confident that it is not going to be as bad as this first wave. And because we are better educated about it and better prepared, we should be able to ride it. That for me is really paramount. We should be able to get through it.
Yeah. I think that's the key, is that the first time, although, we had warning from it happening elsewhere in the world, we were in most part unprepared for that.
Very slow. Yeah. Very slow. We could have had the whole summer to trade with. And I mean, I was in Europe in February, and I was doing all the stuff then, my daughter rang me up and said, look, this is going to come over, you need to be careful, do this. And we had all these steps in place even before actually announced about it, when it started going, before they said it was fun. We'd already put these steps in place at the pub. We'd already started, we'd already sent telling this is what we're going to do, this is what we're expecting you to do, this is how we're going to deal with it. It wasn't as severe and as intense as we're going to do it now, but we'd already put that in place because we could see it was coming. And I just kept thinking, now, which was in February sometime, well before March, we would have the summer to trade, we would have the spring, but on hindsight, we're here now. If we can get July and August at least, that might help. It won't help a lot because it's God, we've lost so much money, we've lost so much time. But, if we can just pay the bills and keep it ticking for the next season, we'll be fine. That's how I see it. And I have to believe that. And I think we're in a good position to do that because of our position, because of where we are, because it is fresh, it is lovely, it is clean. It's a destination thing to get people out of cities, out of very closed areas. And, we have planned it to keep people safe. And we have to believe that it's going to work out because, we're not investor backed. We don't have any backing. We own our own businesses and we have to make it work. We have to believe that it's going to work. Now, all we need is the government to put those guidelines to help us reinforce them with the general public, the pub companies and landlords to play ball with rent and make it feasible so that we do pay something to keep them going, but not to be greedy and expect it all because it's just not going to work out. And all they're going to end up with is lots of empty pubs. Certainly. That's all I can see.
Absolutely. It's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. Thank
Same
you so
here.
much. Wishing you all the best. And let's
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this interview, and if you have any comments, feel free to tweet us or comment on the post. We're making all of our interviews available to download. And finally, if you like what we do, whether it's our podcast or our videos or even our features, please head over to our Patreon page and support us there. This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com.